All right, the Texans are going to build their new headquarters in Bridgeland, which is a master planned community in northwest Harris County. A lot of people have a lot of questions about this. First and foremost, why should I care about this? And I get it. Some people are really excited about it. Other people just don't give a damn. It's not going to affect, it doesn't have to affect your everyday enjoyment of the Texans, because the first question people have is the stadium going to move? It doesn't look at all like there's any chance that the stadium is going to move out of its current location. And it's just that the Texans aren't going to have to share all that space and deal with the commotion and everything else that's going on in a shared facility. They can get off and do what most other teams in the NFL do, which is have their own facility. Full disclosure, that is not like an artist's rendition or anything of the facility. This is what ChatGPT whipped up for me, based on the fact that it's going to have the Texans practice facility, but also there's going to be facilities for Love Bee volleyball, youth sports, multiple flag football fields inside their covered pavilion. So they'll have an expanded indoor practice area. It sounds like it's going to be really cool. A lot of questions about, hey, where the hell is Bridgeland anyway? I've lived in Houston for 70 years and I don't know where Bridgeland is. It's understandable. Here's where Bridgeland is. I'm going to show you where Bridgeland High School is. It's such a big freaking city. That's Bridgeland High School. The Texans are somewhere up around in there. But that's right out on Route 99. Or however we call 99 these days. And it's out there on the fourth burgeoning loop in Houston. So someday when there's 7 or 8 loops around Houston, it'll be smack dab in the middle of all that. You can see if you're in League City, it's going to be a pain in the butt to go to training camp compared to what it used to be. If you're in Katy, it's going to be a lot easier to get to training camp. From a performance standpoint, I'll tell you from a former player's perspective, I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh yeah, now the Texans can compete with other teams in the NFL because 30 other teams all have their facilities, and 29 other teams right now have their facilities separate from where their stadium is. This is the way most teams operate. They have a separate training facility. I can tell you from personal experience, the way things have to operate at NRG as a player or as a coach or an athletic trainer especially, it's just clunky. You got to go across the street, over the bridge, over into the separate practice facility. When guys are doing therapy or rehab while other guys are practicing, there's just a lot of distance that people have to travel. And then you're also dealing with the distractions of various things that are happening during the season in terms of concerts and high school games, et cetera, et cetera. Off season, you've got the rodeo, you've got all these other things, and there's not a lot of space for the Texans to operate real efficiently. That's not the end of the world or anything. These are rich folks' problems, but it's something that other teams don't have to deal with. From a personal perspective, like say if I were a free agent visiting the Texans, I've told you guys before, I was a free agent and I visited the Falcons. And they have a setup where they have a separate facility in Flowery Branch, Atlanta, north of Atlanta, and I loved it because it was out in the suburbs. Let me show you this little idyllic scene of Bridgeland, Texas. This is Bridgeland, Texas. Let's see. This is the PR that Bridgeland puts out, trying to get you to buy a home in their place. This does not necessarily look like Maine and Kirby right down there. And you can buy a house for a reasonable price if you've got a family. There's some space. You could commute into work without having to deal with tolls or anything like that. It's just a different type of area than where the stadium is right now. From a personal perspective, I like that. Once I was married with a child, I'd kind of prefer to be able to live somewhere where it's a little bit quieter, a little bit more space. But I think that one thing that's happened with the Texans from the very beginning is because of where the stadium and the headquarters is right now. If you want to buy a nice house there, it's freaking expensive. Even if you're making NFL money, you go and you look at a 1/4-acre lot in West U, and you're paying more for the dirt than you're paying for a beautiful house somewhere out in the suburbs or what have you. It's expensive as hell there. So guys kind of get far flung and spread all around, and you got guys living in Memorial, you got guys down in Pearland, you got guys out in Missouri City. And I never liked it from a team building perspective because it makes it harder for guys to just flat out hang out with each other more. And again, rich folks' problems, I know, I get it. But geography matters. And in places like Buffalo or Green Bay or some of these other places where guys live in the neighborhoods relatively close to the stadium. You're going to have some of the young guys that want to live in the city, and that's fine because those guys have more energy and time to hang out with each other. I like it from that perspective. I think that can actually have a long-term effect on the type of camaraderie you have on the team. Some of the nuts and bolts of this whole scenario. Let's see. Texans proposed 325,000 square foot training facility and headquarters will be 22 of the 83 acres, while the remaining will be dedicated to a mix of retail, restaurant, hotel, entertainment, commercial, and medical space. And it's going to be called the Toro District. So obviously with the Texans tie there. The other part of it is how the hell are you going to pay for this big thing that you're slapping up there? Let's see. Why are you doing this? All right, it's unclear how much the project would cost or who is responsible for paying what, but the county's proposed contribution will be $150 million, primarily designated for improved infrastructure needed in the area. Judge Hidalgo said it'll be funded through a tax increment reinvestment zone, which basically means that a certain portion of those sales taxes are going to be used specifically for that zone. How's the sausage made? I don't know. I just always assume there's a whole lot that goes into it that I don't want to know about. But there's obviously going to be a hefty investment, but also a reported, they're claiming a $42 billion impact on the area in terms of revenue or economic development, whatever it might be. I don't know. I'm always curious about just how specific they can get with that stuff. And it's, let's see, one more. Texans have long wanted to build a new headquarters and training facility. They currently have one of only 5 franchises in the NFL to house their headquarters in the same building they play home games. The others are the Panthers, the Bengals, the Packers, and the Patriots, with a latter in the process of building a new facility. I've seen different figures on this, and I think the Packers are the one that I sometimes see and sometimes don't. So for whatever that's worth, it's that's more than I had said initially. But the Patriots and the Texans are the ones that are and Green Bay. Okay, so Green Bay and the Patriots. The Patriots are building a new one. Whatever. Let me see. I want to get to the comments. I'm curious how you guys feel about this. Facility. Sorry, I hit the wrong key. That's okay. I didn't see what the first comment was. Oh, okay. So aside from the actual games, everything else will take place in the new facilities, yes, which are not in New Caney, but I understand Retired Row. You hit the wrong key. Yeah, basically everything other than game day is going to be done at the headquarters. Oh, that's one thing I actually like about this too. Again, rich folks' problems. I'm gonna apologize a million times for any time I make it sound like NFL players or owners are complaining about the horrible circumstances. It's always pretty nice, but I kind of liked the idea of on game day going to your stadium, and that's the only time that week that you're seeing the stadium. It's something special. I always did wonder, from college and the NFL, and then going back to high school, like how much it felt almost like it got too familiar that you're in the same locker every day, practicing in the same area, or at least showering and working out in the same building that's right next to your stadium, that I worried sometimes that it would feel too routine when you're walking in on game day. It's stupid, and I was probably the only person that ever had this concern, but I do like the idea of, okay, it's something special. We're going to the stadium. This is a big deal. And you're already more comfortable with it and everything because you play your games there way more than your opponents do, obviously. You still have that home field advantage. But that's just me. Let's see. Catchy right. Toro. I heard somewhere that the Texans are putting in money. Yeah, they're definitely going to be paying. That's just the contribution from, how it works with these things. The contribution from the county is also going to be significant. If the taxpayers have to pay for this, then why can't the Texans send CJ Stroud packing? They can afford it because we're picking up the tab for their house and probably new stadium. It's like the separation of taxes and the football side of things is always it's paramount. It's written into the Constitution, but it's 100% with a thing that it does get you agitated when your team isn't doing well, but you know that they paid money. I paid money for that retractable roof that we never use, and it's 2020, and I'm miserable about everything else. And yes, it's again the way that teams kind of are an economic enticement, but then also the prestige enticement or anything. The Texans would have had options outside of Harris County because there's plenty of counties in high growth areas that know that this is going to bring economic impact, a certain amount of prestige to it. This is an area that's developing very quickly. So it's beyond my purview to be able to talk intelligently about the tax-based side of things. As far as C.J. Stroud, look, C.J.'s a very affordable quarterback this year. I didn't want to get into the whole quarterback thing right now. C.J., if you don't want C.J. Stroud to be the quarterback this year, let's not even discuss whether or not they're going to give him an extension or anything. What is your alternative and what is your option right now? I still believe in the upside of C.J. Stroud, and I also know that there's no way in hell I'm going to waste multiple picks to try to trade up to get a quarterback in a weak quarterback draft to hopefully see if maybe he works out. So this is a discussion for 2027 if CJ somehow regresses this year or doesn't move forward or stays stagnant or whatever. Eric says it's about 5 minutes from my house, which I'm guessing. This is what I'm catching. Most people pronounce it Bridgeland. They don't pronounce it land, like Pearland or Sugarland. They pronounce it Bridgeland. Larry and Stafford this morning called in and said, no, we call it Bridgeland. And then he said maybe there's a difference between how black people and white people pronounce it. Larry tried to make it racial. And then I asked Larry, jokingly, all right, well, how do you pronounce the Woodlands? And he said, Woodlands, L-A-N-D. And then he hung up. So I have a suspicion that most people call it Bridgeland. Some people might call it Bridgeland. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Why didn't they build it in Pearland, Sugarland, or Katy? I think that, okay, again, this is above my pay grade. I think that at least part of it was the relationship they have with Harris County and the fact that the lease through 2000, it's a few more years that the lease runs. I want to say 2031. The lease runs through 2031 or so for NRG Stadium. That I'm guessing that the relationship between the Texans and Harris County, they want to keep that good and keep the stadium at NRG Stadium in Harris County. So this hopefully means that whatever stadium renovations they need to do, they're also going to be able to do those without the Texans trying to operate their day-to-day activities while construction is going on. They can work 6 days a week during the football season, 7 days a week on the stadium other than during rodeo and concerts and everything. So I'm guessing that that's something that was appealing to both sides, both the Texans and Harris County, was being able to have the new headquarters but not have it be necessarily so disruptive or having to build a brand new stadium. Let's see. RC3175-E4W. A lot of times I lay awake at night thinking, hey, why is RC3175-E4W always bashing C.J. Stroud as much as he is? I get your frustration and I get where you're coming from. I didn't see if you had the other plan for what are you going to do without C.J. Stroud. We haven't seen that yet, RC3175-E4W. That's all I asked you. Is that if you're saying you want to get rid of C.J. Stroud, what's the plan for replacing C.J. Stroud with a better option right now? Never heard of Bridgeland until this news. Are there big bridges there? Funny you should ask, Tooth Road 281. Maybe you missed the original video. I don't know. It's a master planned community, and I'm guessing they built some bridges there so that they could put it on the picture and whatnot. I know there's a tree house. It's a badass looking tree house. I'm gonna take a drive up around Bridgeland at some point here. I have no idea.